Okay, we're going to run through the setup of the Uway VH200HD camera. This is the full setup of the camera where we run through everything in detail. If you want to see the quick setup, hopefully you'll find it there in the list too. That's where we just set it up quickly in that one and get it on its way. But this one we'll run through more of the in more detail about the camera. So in your box you get a strap to strap the camera up to a tree or a post. And you also get a USB cable, so if you like you can hook your camera into the computer. You get details on contacting us if you need more information, and that's what we're here for. If people are having any trouble, we want you to give us a call. The instruction manual and also the warranty details. You get a 1-year warranty with the camera. Now the VH camera, the VH200, it's got a black flash. This is up here. At night when that takes photos you can't see any infrared glow coming out of that, and that's one of the great things about this model. Here you have the lens of the camera and the sensor. Over here this determines or tells the camera whether it's day or night and whether the camera has to use the flash or not. This one here is just an indicator LED to tell you that you've turned the camera on, and we'll see that later in action. The camera's got a couple of clips here that enable to keep the camera fully watertight, keep ants out of the camera. It's got a gasket here as well to help with that. Still, we do not recommend the camera to be immersed in water. It's made to sit on a tree and have water run off it, no worries at all. Now one of the first things you have to do is put your batteries in the camera. Now, it takes 12 AA batteries. We recommend either using the rechargeable any-loop batteries like these or the lithium batteries. Lithium batteries are good for about 10,000 photos, and we find these any-loops we get about 7,000 images out of them. We have customers that have had the lithium batteries in the camera for over a year, and that was in areas that I guess didn't get as much action, but generally on a front gate people sort of average between 3 to 6 months. Just depends how much action is travelling through that gate as to how many photos the camera is going to take and how much use it's going to get. When you put the batteries in, just like any electrical device, it's got an image on the bottom there showing you which way the battery has to go in. Pay attention to that and make sure that they're pushed all the way in and that they're sitting there nicely. Okay, now also you need to put your SD card in. We recommend an 8GB or a 16GB SD card. Generally on an 8GB card you'll fit anywhere between 5 to 10,000 images, depending on what image size you select, and obviously on a 16 double that. Put your card in upside down into the slot here, and when you press it in you'll just hear it click in nicely. Okay, so your camera's ready to turn on. Now you've got a three-way switch on the bottom here. You've got off on the left, on the right, and in the middle you've got setup. Just put it in the middle there on setup and you'll see the screen illuminate with the deer image and the Uway symbol, and then after that it'll just come up with what the camera is actually looking at, so you can see that the camera's view, which is really handy when you're setting the camera up. On that initial screen it also tells you what mode the camera is in, so it's in camera mode there. 5M just means 5 megapixel. It tells you how many images you've got on your camera, so when you come and open your camera after it's been sitting out for a while you can see straight away here how many photos are on there, and we've got 0 on there. The 9999 means on that 8GB card there should be room to fit another 9,999 plus images on that card, so that's basically the room left on the SD card. And down in the bottom left it's got your battery life, so we've got full battery charge on this camera at the moment. Now if you hit your menu button it brings up all your different options that you can adjust in the camera to suit your needs. First of all, you've got two tabs there as well. On the left you've got most of your camera settings, and then on the right hand side in this other tab it's some of the tools and things that you can use, and we'll go through that. First of all, we'll go through some of the photo settings. So if you hit your up and down arrows, you can see that it moves the green bar on the menu, and that's just how you toggle around. If you hit your OK button, that selects whatever you've got highlighted. So if you highlight the camera mode and hit OK, there we go into the camera mode, where we can see we've got three options. You've got photo, video and playback. So if you want the camera to take images, to take photos, then have it in photo mode. If you want it to take video, go down and set it in video mode. The camera won't take both, you set it to either mode to work in. So we'll set this one up in video mode for now. Playback just allows you to go in there and look at the images that you've already taken, and we'll come back and look at that later on. So we'll put it in photo mode for now. And once you've done that, hit your menu to go back to your menu screen again. Hit your down arrow a couple of times, go into photo resolution. Now we recommend using the 5 megapixel photo resolution, not the 8. We find the image quality out of the 5 megapixel is just as good as in the 8 megapixel. Plus it also has the benefit of not taking as long in between photos to process the image, and also you can get more images onto your SD card as well, 5 megapixel. So select 5 megapixel, hit OK. You can use smaller ones if you want to as well, but generally 5 megapixel is what we find is good. Go down to photo burst, the next one, hit OK. Now you can take up to 5 photos in a row if you want. So when the camera's set off, bang 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 bang, you can take 5 photos. That was only 4, was it? But you can set it to any number up to 5. Usually it'll take those photos, for instance on a 3-shot burst it'll take 3 photos within about 1.5 seconds, but then it's got to save all of those images onto the SD card, and it can take about 4 to 5 seconds per image depending on the size. On a 5 megapixel size image, takes about that 4 to 5 seconds per image. So if you had it on a 3-shot burst, for instance, where it takes 3 photos all within 1.5 seconds, you can then take about 12 to 15 seconds before the camera is ready to take another burst. So just keep that in mind when you're setting it up. A 3-shot burst is usually good if you're trying to capture something that's moving through quickly, like a vehicle. I prefer just to have it on 1 and have more regular shots, but yeah, have a play around and see what suits you best. Video resolution, so when you're in video mode, you can select between high def video or VGA. We prefer to use VGA. I find it to be a better quality image. Video length, you can go anywhere up to a 30-second video. I find about a 20-second clip to be plenty long enough for what I do. Video sound, that's standard, that comes on, so if you like you can turn the sound off. I find the sound to be excellent. You can get some really good, if you're using the camera for security, you can get some good information from the sound of people talking, or if you're just doing wildlife videos, the sound adds so much more to a video. Your quiet time. Now quiet time means your time that the camera goes to sleep in between photos. So most of the time people would want their cameras as active as possible with as little downtime on them. So for that, set the camera on just a 1 second quiet time. The camera comes standard on 10 seconds, which means what it does, the camera takes a photo, goes to sleep for 10 seconds, and then it's ready to go again. So I recommend putting that down onto 1. Illumination. This is talking about the camera's illuminator, this black flash. So on internal, it is talking about this internal illuminator. So highlight internal, hit OK. If you don't hit OK on internal, it comes standard set to that. If you change it to external and hit OK, the camera's light is not going to come on at night. That flash is not going to come on, so you'll just have black photos. This is probably one of the biggest call-ups we get from people, is when they say they've got black photos at night. It's usually because they've set this setting on external, thinking that I'm putting the camera outside, so I must need to use the external illumination setting, thinking that they need a brighter setting or something like that. But all it's talking about there in external is an external slave flash, an extra flash to the camera, not the built-in internal flash. So make sure that's always set on internal. Now, PIR sensitivity. This is the how sensitive the camera is to movement. So on high, the camera is going to pick up action further away. On low, that action is going to have to be closer to set the camera off. This is always a trade-off with cameras. If you're in a shed or an area where there isn't vegetation moving around or isn't anything blowing around, you can put that up on high, and that should work well. But if you're out in the bush where you've got trees blowing around, grass blowing around in front of the camera, then you wanting to put that PIR sensitivity on low. I always tell people, for a start, put it on normal, and then see if they are having the camera set off by things, vegetation, stuff they don't want to be set off, setting the camera off. So just select your sensor level there. Your duty time. Some people don't want the camera active 24/7, they just want it to be active at night, for instance. If that's the case, go into duty time, hit enable, and then click on your start time, and here you can put in what hours of the day you want your camera to operate. For instance, a lot of people might want the camera coming on in the afternoon at 6 o'clock at night, and then finishing up at say 6 in the morning. So you can do that sort of thing as well. If you want it working 24/7, right, back. If you want it working 24/7, then you want to have the duty time disabled. So just click on disable. Timelapse. Now, Timelapse is a great little feature for other things besides security. For say people want to photograph their house being built, or photograph the veggie patch and their garden growing. You can set the camera to take a photo at set intervals, so it's not dependent upon movement. So if you go into the time-lapse setting and go hit OK, go to enable, and then select a start time. So you might want your camera just to operate during the day, for instance. You don't want any nighttime photos. This would be good for a building construction. So we start at 6 AM when the tradies arrive. End time, set that at 6 o'clock at night. And then the delay interval. So the delay interval is the time in between each image. So you might want a 5-minute gap between images if it's a shorter project. If it's a long-term project that's going to go on for 3 to 6 months, you might want a photo every half an hour, something like that. So you can set that in there as well. To get out of that time-lapse mode, you can see down here it says back. Just hit your back arrow and do the same thing again to bring you back into the main menu. So we finished with that menu. If you hit your down arrow one more time, it highlights the tab at the top. Then hit your right button, and you can do that again. Hit your right button once, and it highlights the next tab, the Tools tab. Once you've highlighted that tab, you can then enter that menu by hitting your down arrow. Language, English is standard. You can go in there and change it if you like. Timestamp. Your timestamp is what is on the bottom of the camera, so you can turn that bottom of the image, sorry, so the date and the time is written across the bottom of each photo. If you like, you can turn that off, but it is a handy thing to have. And then set date time is exactly that. You just go in there and put the date in. To change that, you just hit your up and down arrows. Change your time. You keep clicking the right arrow to go over to the next setting. Day, month, year. I think the camera comes standard in year, month, day, so you can change that over. And whether you want to use 24-hour or 12-hour mode. And then hit OK once you're happy with that. Temperature, if we go into temperature and have a look, you can select Fahrenheit or Celsius. Just hit OK on Celsius. Whatever is highlighted in green in the menu is what the camera is already on. So if you go into a menu and see that something like Celsius is already highlighted, that means that that is what the camera is already set to. You don't need to change it. You can just go straight back out of that menu by hitting the back arrow. The next one is power type. Hit OK. So we can see in here NiMH, nickel metal hydride, is already selected, and that's what these rechargeable batteries are. They're nickel metal hydrides. If you're using the lithium batteries, then just go and select lithium or alkaline. We don't recommend alkaline batteries for the VH200 camera. Alkalines don't have a lot of power in them to power this incredible LED black flash that this model has. These lights really pump out a lot of light at night. Another great thing about this model of camera. If you're wanting to plug your camera into 240 volt or use a solar panel, the DC 6 volt is what you'd select there, and that goes straight into this bottom section here of the camera. You take all your batteries out of the camera when you're using DC 6 volt as well. You can't leave them in. Once you've done that, hit OK. Format the SD card. We recommend formatting the SD card if you're using an old SD card, a card that's come out of another device, another camera, something like that. I would then recommend formatting the SD card. When you format the card, it totally cleans the card off of any old files or anything like that on there, so make sure you haven't got any photos that you wanted to keep on there when you format it. If it's a new card that you've just purchased off us, then you don't need to worry about formatting the SD card. The card will be fine as it is. To format the card, you just hit OK there, and then it asks you yes or no, and you can go in there and hit yes if you like. Access control. So if you want to, you can enter a password into the camera. You can set a password. It's just a series of numbers, 4 numbers in there, and then when you turn your camera off and back on again, it asks for the password to be entered back into the camera. Don't forget the password. If you do, you have to send the camera into us for us to reset it. There's no way around it. Disable the password if you want to disable it. Default settings. If you hit OK in default settings, what it does is return the camera back to all its factory default settings. So it's not usually something that many people want to use. Camera information. In there it tells you how many photos and videos the camera's got on the SD card, storage, the available space on the camera on the SD card, and the firmware version that the camera is running. Upgrade. This is you can, if you wanted to put up a new version of firmware. From time to time, some of the cameras we have do need a new version of firmware. Say they might have a new feature or something like that in the camera that you can use, and you can put a new version in there then. But that's all the settings there now. Now you can turn the camera on, so just go down to your 3-way switch and switch it over to the on position. Close your camera up, and you'll see the blue light on the front flashing. That's telling you that the camera is on and ready to go, and that'll stop soon. There we go. And once it's stopped, the camera is now taking photos. So even though you can't see or hear anything, it's taking photos and saving them onto the SD card inside the camera right now. So while there's any movement going on in front of it, that's what it's doing, if you've put those correct settings into the camera. So what we usually recommend is when you set it up at the area, go and run around in front of the camera, simulate the activity that you're trying to pick up, make sure that you're getting everything in your shot that you want, and the way to do that now is to open up the camera, put it back into setup in the middle, and then we'll have a look on here and see what photos we've been able to capture. So if you hit your down arrow, well, the first thing it tells us again there is we've got 6 photos on the camera. So hit the down arrow to have a look at them. Photo 6 of 6, there's me. I'm a bit blurry because I was moving the camera around, but you can click through and have a look at all the photos you've got on there to make sure that you're getting the right view that you want. If you're not, adjust your angle of the camera and turn it on, come back, check it again. Sometimes you have to do that a few times, and once you find that right position, it's great. If you want to delete the photos off the camera, hit your up arrow. You can delete one or delete all. Delete all, yes. Yep, no file. So again, switch that over to on. The blue light flashes on the front. When it stops, it's taking photos. Just make sure that we're getting some. I'll just run through this part again with you. It's probably one of the parts we get a lot of questions about. Okay, that should have been able to take a few photos there now. Switch it back over to setup. Okay, we've got 4 photos on there. Hit your down arrow, and that brings up the images on the camera, and you can look through them. If you want to go back into your menu and change some settings, you can go in there and start changing your settings again. There we go. That's the VH200HD. If you have any other questions about that, please feel free to get on the phone and call us and talk to us, and we can help you through any parts of it. Okay, thanks for your time.